Takashi Miike, director of Hot Fuzz and The Inn of the Dead, is back with a new film, a story about a weak man with an immortal body and a psychopathic murderer. Don't miss it if you like. Jack, a young boy, is climbing a tree to get a bird's egg. Accidentally falls out of a tree. A fall from such a height should have been hopeless. But then a miracle happens. Jack's twisted limbs return to life. The tentacles protruding from his body healed his wounds instantly. I never thought he would be immortal. But to the other children, Jack was a monster. The boy grew up with his parents dead, and with people looking at him differently. And he became a loner and a coward. But that night, fate plays a cruel joke on Jack again. A van suddenly pulled up on the side of the road. A couple of vicious thugs looked into Jack's bright eyes and shouted, "That's a good one." Then they rushed towards him. Poor Jack was shivering with his head in his hands. Then he lost consciousness. It turned out that the thugs were an evil gang of organ traffickers. By now, Jack was lying on a crude operating table. His body had been cut open and his eyes had disappeared. Just as the surgeon feels he has done his job, and is about to take a break, Jack, who was already dead, suddenly stirred. Red tentacles popped out of his wounds, and then miraculously recovered. And so Jack came back to life. But his eyes were too far away. It didn't come back into place. Jack had to rely on his physical instincts. Picking up his left eye from the workbench beside him, he held it close to his eye socket. As if by magic, the eye came back into place. Jack could finally see his surroundings. Hearing the doctor calling for a companion, the cowardly Jack was frightened out of his wits. Not even caring about the other eye, he ran for the window without hesitation. A few months later, Jack's body had fully recovered. He was getting used to living with one eye. But then something strange happens and Jack's peace of mind is shattered once again. A beautiful statue of a young girl stands in the middle of a busy street. Passers-by grab their phones to take pictures. But the next moment, blood suddenly oozed from all over the body of the statue. Only then did the crowd realize the statue in front of them was a freshly dead body. Everyone was so scared that their legs were shaking. This murder case immediately attracted the attention of the police. If we put aside the body, it was a perfect work of art. It was also monogrammed with what looked like the author's signature. All the officers could not help but marvel at the fact that this killer must have been a psychopath. Who knew that a second sculpture murder would occur not even a few days later? A man was dressed as a Roman statue. He was covered in steel pipes in an artistic manner. This was followed by a third. A blindfolded statue of a young girl stands on a busy street in the city center. The same sick and twisted way of killing as before. All apparently committed by the same person. The police had no clue. All they found was that each of the victims was carved with a monogram. But they were not sure what they meant. The murders were an immediate public sensation. Even Jack, who doesn't know anything about the world, is keeping an eye on the case. He had been a mere spectator. When an unexpected discovery is made, he becomes involved. One day he was at home singing as he always does. Suddenly, a sharp pain came from his right eye socket, where he had lost it. Then he saw a strange image. On the table were sketches and tools for drawing. There were also pictures of divination on the computer. Jack noticed that some of the symbols looked familiar. But the strange environment was definitely a place he hadn't been before. With a little thought, Jack suddenly remembered the eye that had been gouged out a few months ago. The immortal physique could give all parts of his body an unimaginable amount of activity. Could it be that what he had just seen was what the new owner of his right eye had seen? Jack was a coward by nature. Even if he had a clue, he didn't want to seek justice for himself. Until that day at work at the junkyard, Jack saw some thugs bullying an old man. The only justice left in his heart made him stand up and try to chase the punks away. But they all beat Jack up. The leader of the group took out a dagger and threatened him. Jack held back his anger, but he didn't expect them to actually swing the dagger. His right ear fell off and his blindfold fell off, revealing a fierce and angry face. A few of the punks fled the scene, dumbfounded. But Jack stood still, waiting quietly for the wound to take its place, reaching out with his tentacles to put his ear back in place. After this incident, Jack came to realize that tolerance is no reward for mercy. He had to take back what he had lost. So that night, Jack returned to the operating room, where he had lost his eye. To his surprise, the people there hadn't left. It was as if they were waiting for Jack to appear. After a loud roar, a bunch of punks came out of nowhere. All the courage Jack had managed to gather was in his legs. He ran like hell into the distance. There were dead ends all over the place. Jack was almost caught up several times. Luckily, a mysterious woman appears out of nowhere. She knew the terrain well. She led Jack around the corner to the top of a building. The woman seemed to know that Jack was immortal. She tentatively cuts his skin with a dagger. Seeing the wound heal instantly, she had a look in her eyes. Jack was puzzled by the stare. Suddenly the sound of footsteps of a gangster came from downstairs. Before the man could think of a response, suddenly he felt a tightening in his collar. The next moment he was thrown from the top floor by the woman. But with his immortal body, he was fine. He quickly disappeared into the dark alleyway. The mystery woman's actions opened a new door for Jack. He never thought he could use his immortality in this way. Later that night, Jack's eyes began to hurt again. He felt the vision of his Star Master again. On the table were sketches of the bodies of serial killers. Seeing such detailed hand drawings, and the notes he had taken, Jack's heart chilled. Immediately, he realized that the man who had taken his eyes was a legendary psychopathic killer. The resentment of being bullied by his peers since childhood. It was as if he had found an outlet for it. Jack vowed in his heart he would find the criminal who had taken his eyes, and was responsible for all the harm he had done. Whatever came to mind, came to mind. The next day Jack was at work, when he saw the image from the missing eye again. This time it was a very famous landmark in the city center. So he immediately dropped his work, and flew to the building. But it's not easy to find the target with all the people here. Luckily, it wasn't long before Jack once again saw the murderer dining with a beautiful woman. So he quickly made his way to the pedestrian street a short distance away. With the names of the shops blurred, he finally found the restaurant where the killer was. Unfortunately, the seat was empty. Only the beautiful woman opposite was still there. But he was too late. She tried to find out the identity of the criminal from the pretty girl. But she was quickly dismissed as a mobster of unknown origin. Jack didn't expect that either. The murderer who took his own eyes. To the outside world, he looks like a well-dressed office worker. He is surrounded by men and women who admire his beauty and talent. Anna is one of them. On this particular evening, she arrives at the murderer's home dressed to the nines. He told her to take a shower and wait for him in bed. Anna was just visiting the house. She didn't expect it to happen so quickly. She was a little happy and a little worried. When the passion was over, Anna arrived at the killer's studio in her nightgown. Looking at the food in the fridge, which was neatly arranged, she was a little surprised. Anyone who can do such a small thing so well. He was either an obsessive-compulsive or a pervert. Then Anna saw a book on her workbench. The sketches of the statues in it reminded her of the recent rash of serial killings. Curious, she turned to the fourth page of the sketch. Early the next morning, an old man walking his dog found a fourth statue of the murdered man by the river. It's so beautiful. The old man was amazed by the artistry of the statue, because it didn't take much thinking to realize that there was a body hidden inside the statue. Anna, who was on the bus, also saw the news. The statue looked exactly like the sketch she had seen last night at her Beloved's home. She didn't want to believe that the man she adored was a legendary psychopathic murderer, so she waited until she was at work. She asked her lover to meet her on the rooftop of the office. She wanted to find out if he had killed someone or not. To be on the safe side, she also hired a spare tire to protect her. The murderer was looking for an excuse to get away with it. But then Anna saw his fourth sketch. When he saw what had happened, he stopped pretending. He first covered Anna with his jacket. Then he rushed towards the spare tire. The man was defenseless. Not far from there, Jack is in full view of the killer. He saw the spare tire being knocked backwards and forwards. He was thrown from the rooftop by the killer. And Anna, who was shivering in fear, she reached out to call the police, but the killer stomped on her. Anna kept begging him to let her go. She would do anything to help. But the killer gently stopped her pleas. Then he took her into his arms, and pushed her hard. Anna's neck was snapped and she was left cold. Jack, who had witnessed everything through his shared vision, his whole body was shaking with anger. He was a weak man, but he had to catch this psychopath no matter what. A battle of seemingly disparate strengths is about to begin. Stay tuned if you like. See you next time.